Hi, I'm Jamie Bonk, and this is No Tuition. Taylor Hoy is one of those artists who seems to be able to do it all. Among the many hats that Taylor wears is music producer, guitarist, DJ, and graphic designer. He's equally adept at producing his own original music as he is at remixing. Taylor released his debut album Tay in 2016, and in this interview we talked about his music, his gear, and some of the challenges of being an indie musician. In 2016, you released your debut album Tay. The electronic-based, mostly instrumental record features 12 of your own original compositions. Making a full-length album like Tay can be a real challenge. What was the toughest part of making the record?
The toughest part of that was, I'd have to say, like actually writing lyrics, because I always have trouble writing just lyrics to anything. Because I remember in songwriting class, they were always telling us, just write the lyrics first and then the song will come. But this was like, I had the songs composed already, and I was like, oh crap, I had to write lyrics to this now. Like I could have released them instrumental, but I found I should add lyrics to a few of them. So that was probably the biggest challenge of that. Everything else just kind of came together.
And how long did the record take you to make?
So Falling, that was like one of my first songs that I actually like really, I think that it was like, that was where my actual production kind of got well enough that I was proud to say, hey, this is me when I put it online. So that was like, I think only like right after we graduated, so 2015. That was when that one came out. And then the other ones just kind of came like a year afterwards. So
you didn't have all 12 tunes sort of written before you started recording? They were sort of composed along the way of making the record?
Yeah. And then by the time I got to the record, I just like pulled some old songs and then just redid them. So yeah, like Falling was an old one, and then I just kind of redid it, remixed it a bit, and then added vocals to it.
Did you have like a general sense of the overall sound of the record that you wanted? Like it was going to be in this particular style or genre before you started?
No, like my mindset was just really show my skill with Ableton. So that's why there's kind of like a big eclectic kind of collection of all of it. Like there's stuff from like, it goes from, I don't know what kind of genre you'd call that, vaporwave, just like spacey out there stuff. Like, what was the song on it? I think it's called Edge of My Seat. That was like the more spacey vibe. And then just like an IDM feel. And then the dubstep trappy one, Rain. So it was just like a broad spectrum of all the genres of EDM that I was kind of trying to get across. So
there wasn't one overarching sense, okay, I want the record. Because it does hold together the album. It doesn't seem like they're necessarily like a bunch of singles thrown together. So yeah. But you didn't have, when you started, some master plan to do the record.
No, I had no master plan. It just coincidentally sounded like it all flowed together.
Right on. Okay, so you're both the artist and the producer on Tay. Sometimes having a second set of ears listening to an artist's music can be helpful. A different opinion where the music should go can make for a better record. On the other hand, self-producing can be incredibly powerful and give the listener a more direct picture of an artist's vision. What do you feel you gained in being both the artist and the producer on Tay? Okay,
so with that album, I felt that it was all like 100% me. So there wasn't really much like influence to the songs other than just me on it. So some of the songs that would be like, I'd go to my parents or I'd go to my friend and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And they usually come back with, well, my friend has really critical responses. He would tell me like, don't do that. Don't do this part. Drop the build or right. Put the drop right here kind of thing. So he would direct me in that sense, but a lot of it was still like I still felt that it was all me because I was producing and songwriting at the same time.
Guess you do the mixing and mastering yourself as well?
Yeah, I do mixing, mastering, and then kind of the Photoshop, so little bit of graphic.
All the graphics and stuff is just awesome. So as well as recording your own original music, you're heavily involved in doing remixes. Does your approach change when working on an original track versus doing a remix?
Oh, completely. Because with like an original song, it's like, okay, I've got a beat, and then now I've got to add some chords, add some melodies and stuff. But then with a remix, it's just all there, and I just have to pull it out and kind of change it to my own style. So I think when I'm actually starting from scratch, the remixes come together a lot faster.
So okay, so can you walk us through your remix process? So you go get, I guess, are they stems you're getting to do
Yeah,
the
there's stems.
remix?
Some of them are stems, unless they're like a bootleg remix where I just kind of EQ'd the actual song itself to push out some frequencies. But yeah, what's the remix that's out right now? So Eloquin's remix, that was all stems that she gave to me.
And you got the like an a cappella vocal, like a separate vocal line as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she gave me all that, and then didn't use the drums and I used some of the percussion. Um, so I added a lot of my own instruments and synths behind that. But there's one like voice in the song that's only in the actual like fully composed piece. So I had to take that piece out and actually put that into it, and like turn it down a bit so it didn't sound like the full song was, or like the original was in there. But
Are you
I don't know where I was going.
are you starting like are you building the arrangement around the vocal like in that case? Like you would say, I have the vocal up as a guide track, and then I'm building the track around the vocal. Is that part of your process?
Yeah, that's part of it. Like I'll find the chorus, cut that, and then put that down. That's usually like 8 bars or so. And then around that, I'll just start building like a kind of like a dancing vibe feel. This is more just for Eloquent song, but so yeah, what I would do is I found the two parts. So it was like it would be the normal area or the break area, which is just mostly her singing and just a couple instruments behind it, and then the drop, which would be like just all the drums and everything. And that's when I started stacking a whole bunch of stuff up together.
And are you thinking like, do you have a general sound or vibe before you start the remix, or is there a lot of experimentation in the production process?
Um, a lot of the times I can actually hear it right away, and then it's just experimenting with the sounds to get what I can actually hear down to what's actually playing.
Does your choice of gear or software change when you're doing a remix versus doing original track?
No, I mostly use Ableton. Like it's always on Ableton, and then I'll move to something else like Pro Tools to actually mix it to make it sound a little better.
So okay, so you're doing the creative stuff in Ableton, and then what, like, are you bouncing out audio files and then mixing those in Pro Tools? Is that the general flow?
I'll try to like do a mix in Ableton and then bounce that out, and then just any like little tiny things that I want to do. Like if I want to push one little frequency, I'll put that like the whole thing in Pro Tools.
Like as a stereo file.
Yeah,
So
but this new one, I'm actually doing like every individual track. So
a new remix that you're doing with separate tracks. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, like I'm just trying to experiment with different techniques. So.
And you're not using Logic for anything.
Well, I was using Logic when I was doing like composing metal songs, but that's kind of been put on hold since this EDM craze has just been taking over.
Yeah.
Uh,
So okay, do you build up a sound palette before starting the recording process, or do you create sounds as needed? Like, do you mix? Do you do sound design before you're getting going? I know a bunch of composers they'll go and say, okay, I'm gonna create 3 bass sounds, a bunch of keys. Here's my pads, and then they'll start working on a track. Other composers they'll make the sound up or design the sound as the track progresses.
this might sound weird, but like when we first started Ableton, I still have some of those the actual channels that I'm still using. Like, so what I do is every time I'd finish the song, I'd kind of just copy all the instruments into the next song, and then just change them around if I wanted to change this kick, change that kick out to another kick kind of thing. But there's a Complextro channel that I just keep using for some reason. That has it's just a drum rack that has a bunch of sounds on it, but I keep using that one because it has sounds that I'm too lazy to rebuild the drum rack, so I just drag it over.
So you're setting it up almost as a template, and you say
yeah, almost like a template.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
And then I just keep pulling over old sounds from older sessions.
Well, I think in a way that's sort of how you develop your own sound. You say I really like this particular set of drums, and you use them on a number of productions, and suddenly that's your sound palette. So tell us what your studio is like. What kind of gear have you got in your studio?
My gear.
Your gear.
So everything usually starts on my MacBook Pro. So that has Ableton on it, and then because it's the MacBook, it gives me like the freedom and mobility to bring it around anywhere. So compose on the plane, compose in like the basement, compose in my room. So my room's got these Mackie CR3s, the little tiny speakers, but that's usually where I'll like kind of start everything, and then I'll move it downstairs where there's the HS8. So that's when I really start actually mixing it. Then I'll kind of just bounce it between both. Like come up here, work on these speakers, go downstairs, work on the big speakers, do a couple headphone mixes in between, kind of thing.
Yeah. And you're using any like external hardware, like compressors, EQs, any of that sort of thing?
No, it's all in the box.
All in the box. The favorite plugins? Any favorite plugins that you?
Anything by Native Instruments. So like Massive's good, but I think it's overrated. Like I've been using a lot of Reactor, so that's been my go-to recently.
Any compressors, EQs that third-party plugins that you have to have on your productions?
Have to have. I start with FabFilter first, like just to get the general basis of a mix, and then I'll move it to better plugins like Wave EQs.
Yep.
But yeah, every session that I have usually has a FabFilter or Fab EQ or compressor on it.
Yeah, you find your go-tos and you just sort of I really like that sound. Go from there. So what about guitar? Using amp and pedal models? If you're tracking a guitar, do you have like a real bona fide amp or?
No, it's all DI'd.
Cool.
So I have an Akai EIE-IO professional. Yeah, so that's it has I just kind of record my guitars right through that and record microphones if I need the microphone.
And what amp modeling software are you using?
Give me a sec. It's another Native Instrument plugin. It's called Guitar Rig 5. That's the one I've been using most.
Cool. And is there do you use like Amplitude or Bias or any of those other ones, or is that your main, your go-to plugin?
This is just my go-to, Guitar Rig 5. And then I'll just work with other, like, put on an EQ, put on a compressor to kind of work with the sound there.
Yeah. And what guitars are you using now? What are you playing?
So I still got the Gem, like the Ibanez Gem. That's kind of my go-to for soloing, just because the 9-gauge strings are so much easier to bend and everything.
Yeah.
And then the other go-to is probably the the Ernie Ball, the 7-string. Who is it? The John Petrucci. I don't remember exactly the model it is, but the 7-string.
Yeah, just for his signature model.
Yeah.
And did you have an 8-stringer, I think, as well, or no? Or
oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh,
that was when. So like when a lot of my Logic sessions before I stopped were just the 8-string, just fooling around with that.
Yeah, as low as you can go.
As low as I can go.
Yeah. Do you think that do you find like playing like a non-6-string, a 7 or 8-string guitar changes your technique at all?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Especially the 8-string, because the frets are so much further. So like those warm-ups that we used to do in class.
Oh,
it's like do the pull-ups and the hammer-ons. They're so much tougher.
So do
It's,
you have a preference for? I know some players love those, non six string guitars for the extended range, and also the styles of more flat fingered style. Do you have a preference for that versus say playing the Ibanez, the Gem?
nope.
Both good.
I actually prefer. Yeah, they're both good, but I do prefer the six string more. Like now that I'm kind of dumbing down from this metal craze,
Yeah.
prefer just the six strings. Got to profession or get all those before I start moving
Yeah.
to the even higher strings.
There's enough strings on a six string. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, how much improv comes into your soloing? Are you improvising at all, or your solos? Do you find you're kind of composing them?
That's kind of composing them. Like I start with an improv, and then like I'll record the improv, and then just keep listening to it, thinking, what else could I do? This could I do a little in
Yeah.
this area, and then I'll like re-record that. So by the time it's actually like the full solo that I want to put into the song, it's just all chopped up parts, and then I'll just record over that later with like a full, like I've actually practiced that whole solo together.
Oh, so you've learned that particular solo and then play it as a complete piece.
Yeah, yeah, just like that,
Cool. And are you writing it out at all, or is it just all by ear, basically?
all by ear. Like
Yeah.
I'll videotape it if I forget, but I should be writing it out, doing my notations.
Yeah. um, okay, so and we've talked about this before, but getting synth parts and electric guitars to blend together in a track can be tricky, like really tricky. Any tips you can offer, either from a performance or production standpoint, that can help people who would like to explore combining synth and guitar in a single track?
I'd say just have fun with it. Like don't think about what other people are going to think about it, because your first try on it's not going to be the best. So just have fun with it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it'll just keep getting better and better, and you'll develop your sound to matching synths to guitars.
What about the differences in terms of like quantized time with synth parts and sort of obviously human time when you're playing like with a guitar? Would you go in and actually like chop up the guitars and quantize them to fit say with the synth part, or create some kind of a beat map to match the synths to the guitar parts? Do you find any way to get them to sit in the track more easily?
That's just a lot of press and play or stop and play. So like just keep listening to it, and if the part sounds out, re-record it so it sounds quantized,
Mm-hmm.
or it sounds more on the beat. Sometimes if I can't get it done, I have to quantize it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are lots of styles now where they're basically quantizing the guitars pretty hard.
Oh yeah,
To make them sound almost they're almost machine like, or they are machine like, I guess at that point. You
like
know,
gated
yeah,
guitars.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So okay, so what's up next for you? Like new album? You got any remixes you're working on?
Got a remix coming out soon, and then got a few originals coming out soon
Can you
too.
tell us anything about them?
So the remix is Clean Bandits, Symphony,
Hmm.
but they haven't really gotten back to me if I should actually do it. But I did find stems, so
Okay.
they're legit stems online.
Yeah.
So that there's that one, and then a song that I wrote after that actually has a lot of the same synths and plugins from Symphony.
Hmm.
This is for an original that I composed. That one, it's almost there. Just needs to mix it.
Hmm.
There's an older one that I'm pulling back, like I kind of did with Falling. Just grab an old song and rework it.
Hmm.
I released it a while ago, but it didn't really have much pull, so I took it down and thought I could probably do something else with it.
Hmm.
So that one's gonna come out again, and then there's another one that was actually at the end of that I just started making something at the end of that session for fun, and then my buddy came over and was like, "Dude, that's a good song. You should actually work with that." So now I've got another one to compose later on. So I've got about six new tracks coming out.
Oh,
at
it's
some point.
fantastic. And are you gonna release them like as a EP or as as singles?
I think they might come out as an EP,
And
but the remix will come out as a single.
any release date set for this, or is this sort of you don't want to pin
No,
yourself
not
down?
yet. No, I don't want to pin myself down because I'm still fiddling around with the actual mixing of it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like, oh, here's a date, and then release it, and it doesn't sound like I want it to.
Oh, cool. So okay, so if people want to find you online, where can they go and find you?
Yeah, so the Tay Hoy album, that was actually under Tay Hoy, but everything now is under Taylor Hoy Music.
Taylor Hoy
So,
Music.
yeah.
That's TaylorHoyMusic.com?
Yeah, TaylorHoyMusic.com.
Yep.
And then that right now just takes you to SoundCloud because my website's, I'm still working on it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Most of it's like, so whenever I release something new, it's going to be on SoundCloud, and then I'll upload like a good quality download link to Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Facebook, YouTube. I'll usually upload like a music video onto YouTube.
Yeah. Are you gonna put your the new EP like on Spotify and Apple Music? That sort of the more commercial outlets.
Yeah. So yeah, Tay Hoy is actually on iTunes too. So I'm thinking I should actually just upload all the originals onto iTunes and Spotify as well. Because I was using DistroKid when I uploaded that. And they give you like an unlimited amount of uploads for like just a yearly subscription.
Okay. And they'll upload to iTunes and so kind of like a CD Baby, their aggregator kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it's an aggregator.
Okay.
That's a better term for it.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. It was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jamie.
And best of luck, and I can't wait to hear your new EP.
Thank you.